everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I just like reading fairy tales.
I'm Nico, and I'm going to be directing a movie called The Seventh Sense. It's where you see ghosts, but they eat your ass.
Wow.
I've seen that movie already, I think.
Oh, word?
Wow. Well, I'm Dan, the local glizzy slinger at the Witchy Wieners.
That what you do, Dan? You sling it?
Bro, I'm slinging glizzies. Anyone want glizzies, I got them.
And you probably definitely couldn't tell from that, but we are here today to review ParaNorman. This was directed by Chris Butler and Sam Fell, starring Cody Smith-McPhee as Norman, Tucker Albreze as Neil, Anna Kendrick as Courtney, Christopher Mintz-Plasse as Alvin, and Casey Affleck as Mitch. We open with Norman, an 11-year-old living in the town of Blythe Hollow. Norman has a very special gift. He can see and speak to dead people, which causes his family, and frankly the rest of the town, to treat him like an outcast. His only real friend is another boy named Neil, and even then, Norman's still a little reluctant to open up to him. One day, Norman's estranged uncle appears and tries to tell Norman something, but he looks kinda, rough, and Norman's not supposed to talk to him, so Neil chases him away. Norman's uncle then dies, revisits Norman, because remember, Norman can talk to dead people, and he tells him that once every year, he's actually been placating this witch that was executed 300 years ago. Now that he's dead, it's Norman's turn to do that. Now, the good news is, all he has to do is read from a book that's in his uncle's possession at the witch's gravesite. So that night, Norman sneaks out of his house to accomplish his task. But how does that go, Nico?
Well, he bears the burden of this new responsibility and gets to it. Norman finds the book as well as his uncle's dead body and heads to the local graveyard. He begins to read from the book, but it seems to just be a fairy tale. I think it was Sleeping Beauty or something, or insert generic fairy tale here. And it also seems ineffective. At this point, Alvin, the local bully, begins to mess with Norman when 7 zombies appear, representing the people the witch cursed before she was executed, and they begin to chase the boys. Meanwhile, Norman's sister Courtney realizes that he's missing, and she heads to Neil's house. There, she meets Neil's hunky brother, and the three of them set out to find Norman. After a short drive, they only find him being pursued by the zombies, and a group drive away with the zombies in hot pursuit. Norman realizes that reading the book didn't work because he wasn't at the witch's grave. He calls a classmate, and she tells him to head to City Hall. They might find some clues there that can help them.
As the group searches City Hall, the local citizenry begins to fight the zombies. The group is unable to find any clues, and the citizens begin to siege the town hall in a frenzy while the zombies infiltrate. Just then, the witch appears in the form of a giant evil cloud, and Norman climbs to the City Hall roof in an attempt to read the book to her. It is ineffective, and she strikes Norman with a bolt of energy, sending him back into the archives. While unconscious, he has a dream about the witch, and he realizes that she was a little girl with gifts not much unlike his own. But the townspeople were scared of her, and they executed her. So now Norman awakes to the zombies surrounding him, but they speak to him, begging him to break the witch's curse. Norman exits the town hall and pleads with the crowd to listen to him, and with the help of his sister and his crew, he manages to placate the crowd and head to the witch's grave. The witch confronts Norman, but he manages to get through to her, indicating that while the townspeople wronged her, she's been holding on to her vengeance and hatred for 300 years. Maybe a little excessive. The witch reveals her true form, a young girl, and says that she misses her mother. Norman manages to get her to come to terms with what happened to her, and she peacefully departs into the afterlife. And as the movie ends, we see that the townspeople finally put a little bit of respect on Norman's name. The end.
As I would expect. Let's start with the audio and visuals for this. So first off, let's lead with the audio here. Nico, how does this movie sound?
It sounds really, really nice. I had a lot of fun with this one. It felt noticeably jovial at times. It felt noticeably spooky in an old sort of classic, children's movie kind of fun way that they can get away with more than I think a lot of other different subgenres in horror can oftentimes. And they have a lot of really nice dialogue to boot, so I'm not complaining.
I actually wanted to talk about the dialogue really quick. I think that this is one of those movies that the movie itself is rated PG, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like one of those movies that, like you can take your kid to the theater or something like that, or watch it with your kid. There'll be something there for the kid, but there would also be something there for like any adults watching it.
It's a really smart movie.
There are a lot of really cool lines, I thought, in the movie, and a lot of like, kind of like subtle jokes that people who are maybe a little bit older will find kind of funny. There weren't any, I guess, super standout themes for me in this one in terms of like the soundtrack, but at the same time, I liked it, and I thought everything that I heard was pretty fitting. Dan, how'd you feel about the sounds?
I agree with both of you. I mean, the soundtrack was awesome. It was all orchestral, and I just love a soundtrack that's all orchestral. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely awesome things to be said about non-orchestral soundtracks too, but I don't know, maybe it's nostalgia or something to me, but I just really like orchestral soundtracks. And the dialogue and all the Foley and everything sounded great too. And like you said, like the conversations in the dialogue that they had were great, and some really funny lines. And I mean, like near the beginning, Norman is watching a horror movie and his dad's like, "What are you watching?" He goes, "Oh, sex and violence."
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But, they had a lot of funny kind of puns and one-liners and things in there. So I liked it.
Now, Dan, this movie, probably the biggest, most noticeable thing it has is it has a very unique visual style. What is the style of this movie, and how did they come up with it?
Yeah, so this is a stop motion film, which is pretty cool. I always am impressed by stop motion films and just the sheer amount of time and attention to detail that they take. They actually did some really cool stuff on this. Just learning about how they created it was really cool. This was actually the first stop motion movie to utilize 3D color printer to make like replacement faces for the puppets and everything.
That's sick.
And again, like attention to detail and time and everything that it takes. I was reading that on average, it takes the animators or each animator shot 4.38 seconds of film per day, which means it takes an entire week of production to complete just over 12 and a half minutes of footage.
Wow.
Which is just like crazy to me. And then like even in...
That's so much.
Yeah. And I mean like in the down the hall scene when they're like exploring the archives and everything, that's 2 full sets with over 20,000 miniature cast books, over 5,000 paper items, and over 400 hand-folded file boxes.
Shit.
Like, it's just that kind of stuff about these stop-motion films that just never cease to amaze me.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's not perhaps my favorite style of movie visually, but you can't knock all the hard work and everything that goes into making it. And it definitely, like, more than achieves the visual flair and exactly what it is trying to go for. It, like, more than achieves that. But Nico, any words from you?
Yeah. No, that's all you got from me. It's just YouTube for the rest of the episode. No, but the one thing that I really did like was surprisingly how this movie played with light. It was something that I noticed particularly when the characters were out in the open in these, areas where there would be sunlight, I guess. And when there was, say, Norman had a sunset going on behind him, the light would sometimes, if it was angled right, just like shine in such a way that it was strong. It actually looked like it was shining through his ears. It just made it seem simultaneously that much more charming and that much more like kind of like what you were saying, Dan, just the attention to detail there. They had, in addition to everything else, they modeled some strawberry pink ears that had light going through them. And I just think that's fucking neat.
So, and I agree with everything you said there, by the way. I liked a lot of the lighting and the way that it worked. And it's interesting because
it was very playful.
Well, it's also something that, because there's something physically there, and oftentimes when we see like animated things, it's not like stuff that's like actually there, but this was like actual things that were there. So it's interesting to see the different ways that light can actually work with them in that respect. But I want to talk really quick about the ending. So we had a little chat on the pod, and I think, Nico, you have some feelings about the ending. Why don't you unleash them to the world?
Yeah, so I will begin by saying that I really, really fuck with this movie, but I'm not a fan of the kind of like milquetoast direction that I think the like morality of it went. Perhaps the morality isn't the right word, but whatever it is in relation to the conversation between Norman and, oh Christ, what's the witch's name?
Aggie.
Like, Norman says that classic thing, but now you're being the bully. Yeah, but counterpoint, also fuck those guys. So like, I don't blame her.
Yeah, I
mean,
I see that, and I agree with that. And while I was watching the movie, I got into kind of a deep conversation with myself about a lot of that because, and this is probably way too much to take from this movie, but I was also thinking a lot about the criminal justice system and
shit.
Honestly,
yeah,
the
but
same.
also like, what's the right word? Reformation is not quite the right word.
Rehabilitation.
Yes, thank you. Rehabilitation. And how, like, yes, if you commit a crime, you go to jail, and that is things happen to you, a consequence of that crime, and then that is supposed to be your punishment, and you get rehabilitated back into society. And obviously, this is way more complex of an issue than I'm even touching on or can even get into. But I was thinking a lot about I was thinking a lot about that, and like 300 years is kind of fucking excessive to hold on to a grudge and like slapping Norman around and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, at what point does she exact justice for that crime?
So I'm actually in agreement with you there, Dan. I liked, I guess, that because you got to think of it like this, right? It's actually kind of almost like a little bit of foreshadowing in the very beginning when...
What? Foreshadowing? No.
I know it's tough to believe, but I thought that when the grandmother was talking about, how, and that's, by the way, Norman's dead grandmother who's just hanging around in the living room.
Just vibing.
But yeah, she talks about how ghosts typically only stay around when either A, they died in like a particularly bad way, or B, they've got something they're holding on to, like some kind of grudge. And this witch is definitely a little bit of column A and B, but I think judging by the ending, it's probably more so B, because I agree that it's not healthy to hold on to something for that long, because like, I see your point, and don't get me wrong, punishing those 7 people makes sense, but taking it out on innocent people afterwards who had absolutely nothing to do with you, you are the bully at that point, I think. Like, when you become the one with the power, these people can't do anything to stop you, and you're literally terrorizing people who had nothing to do with you. Like, nothing. This is 300 years in the future. They literally don't even really know too much aside from like one story about you. So I definitely think by the end, she kind of was the bully. And I think in that respect, it is good to kind of, like let go of some of those earthly attachments, like let go of your hatred. Like it's over now. You got to move past it.
Otherwise she becomes a Sith Lord.
No.
Okay. It is over now, isn't it? It is.
The audience will never get that, but that was a little piece Dan wrote from back in the day when the 3 of us were in a band. Check the bonus episode for more deets. But yeah, so that is an interesting philosophical way to, talk about the ending, and there's different interpretations, and they're pretty much all valid except for Nico's. But I want to go ahead now and turn to Norman himself, our titular character, Norman. He's got those powers that are paranormal, ParaNorman, if you will. And I want to know, how do we feel about his powers? First off, just how do you feel about his powers? He doesn't have to like cast a spell. He doesn't have to give equal exchange. Like, no, it's just, he's got the ability to see ghosts and shit, and he seemingly can't turn it off. Is that a blessing? Is that a curse? Good thing, bad thing? How do you guys feel about it?
I liked his powers, but I think I would hate having them because like not being able to not see dead people would be a struggle.
Yeah, I would lose my fucking mind if I was the only one who could see these ghosts around me and no one else could. Like, I would go to all of the priests or I would institutionalize myself, I think, at that point.
I think you'd still see dead people. You'd probably find more dead people.
Yeah, Baines.
I don't know. I'm in two minds about it. Because first, I do believe in, like, when someone is gone, like, you gotta let them go. Like, you can't... Norman never loses anyone. Like, at least it seems like he really doesn't. He can see the dead people and talk to them.
Well, I guess the only person is like pre-movies. He loses grandmother.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in the movie he doesn't.
Well, I'm talking about, like, he can still talk to his grandma, though.
Oh, right. I got you.
Yeah. Like, I'm saying, so, like, no one has ever truly gone for
I
him.
see.
I'm sure there's someone who might be, because he did say not everyone comes back as a ghost. But Norman gets a chance like a lot of people don't.
God, could you imagine every person who died ever? Just all at once.
Yeah, I know.
Fucking A, that's so many ghosts. That's too many ghosts, Justin.
Well, actually, do you know that the Earth's population has increased at an exponential rate? Therefore, no. But, I mean, really, though, it's a lot of ghosts out there. And there's a scene that actually probably kind of, like, touched me deep down inside, where the one, his friend, Neil, like, his dog is dead. And this is, like, a real fucked up joke. But, like, and I had a pet that got run over by a car. But still, like, I don't know, like, it was still kind of chuckle worthy. His dog got run over by an animal rescue van. And I was like, yo, that's so
Neil
fucked
was like,
up.
Yeah, it's really sad, but also kind of ironic.
I was like, fuck, man. But nah, like, his dog is like there and he's like so happy to see his owner and shit like that. And I was like, oh man, like that kind of fucked me up. Cause you know, like it's kind of tough if you lose a pet and like imagine if like that pet was still there just chilling, but you could never see him. Like that'd be kind of fucked up. So I don't think I would want it like in that respect because you got to let things go. But also like being able to see ghosts would be kind of cool though. Like what happened in 1876? Ayo, can you tell me, Ghost, what happened in 1876?
Hey, yo, Abraham, can I get a primary source?
Abraham Lincoln never said that. Abraham Lincoln definitely said that, though. He told me.
Yeah.
But nah. But how do you think it compares to maybe other movies, TV shows, and media where we see people have a very similar power? Because that is kind of a classic power, right? Being able to see dead people. I don't know anyone who said that line, that they can see dead people, but what...
You see, he was Haley Joel Osment's character in The Sixth Sense.
Ho, ho, ho. Would Haley Joel Osment also not go over to voice Sora from Kingdom Hearts?
Rico!
You're so right about that, Justin!
Rico!
Thanks.
Rico!
And with that collective voice out the way, how do you guys feel about it? Compare his powers, you know, do you think he takes it better than other people you've seen? I know, for example, Thomas. Something wrong with you, bro. Something wrong with you, okay? How does Norman handle his powers in comparison to other people that we've seen with similar powers? For example, I think in Odd Thomas, you know, the main character, his name is slipping so hard right now.
That's a weird fucking name, bro.
But I think he thought of it. Oh, that was his fucking name. His name was Odd. Oh, no.
What's his name?
I'm fucking
Hi, my name is slipping so hard, bro.
I'm fucked up.
Emma.
But no, like, that was, I think Odd took it as more of like a duty to handle spirits and help them pass on and such, as opposed to Norman, who's a little bit younger, so he sees it as more of like he can talk to him and he respects him, but he doesn't really like seem to go out of his way to do anything with them. This witch seems like the first big one. Also, quick RIP to Anton Yelchin. You were the GOAT in that movie, bro. But Dan or Nico, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this definitely takes a more playful look at it too, because, you know, a lot of times the first, like, aside from the witch, we mostly see Norman just like walking down the street, just like talking to ghosts and like, hey, how you doing? And he like plays with like the dead dog, or like there's a dead raccoon on the street and he just like goes over, like pets the raccoon ghost. He definitely has a more playful attitude with the ghosts.
Oh my God, I would pet so many raccoon ghosts. I would pet all the raccoon ghosts.
Every single one. That's a lot of raccoon
Every
ghosts.
single one. Yeah.
Got your work cut out
That's
for
a
you.
lot of raccoon ghosts, but that is my burden.
That is your burden.
Fair. Nico, your thoughts on it aside from the raccoons?
Yeah, the one thing that came to mind for me naturally is just that I have a very strong affinity with this particular trope, seeing dead people, just because, and I'm sure I've talked about this at some point and will later, but when I saw my first real horror movie, it was Sixth Sense, and that just kind of like fucked me up.
I was going to say, damn, Nico, I thought you never seen a ghost before.
I know, I'm about to say, I thought you were going to say you see ghosts. Like, I was like, what?
Oh, no. No, I blue-balled you both there, so let me just keep going now.
You ain't blue-ball me, bro. I want you to know that. I'm made of sterner stuff.
We're gonna take it.
Justin's got his in the big brown bag in the background.
No, we're not talking about. Listen, this podcast is pure fuckery. But Nico, please finish your statement.
It was heartwarming to watch a movie this charming, where one of the main tropes is that the character sees dead people, because, you know, this particular trope is associated with me being afraid of this whole thing that we're doing as a podcast now, and that's on growth, baby.
Respect. I give you the respect they put on Norman's name. I allot you a similar level.
Big up yourself.
Exactly. Big up yourself for real. So,
Yeah.
Holy shit. Dan, I heard this
aggressive.
movie has a couple different themes, bro. I heard it's got some themes. I heard it's got some messaging.
Most movies do, yeah.
So what's the major themes here? Or a major theme? I don't want to give you all the light. We got Nico
Yeah.
in the cut too. He needs some light too.
I mean, probably the biggest one is bullying. You know, it definitely talks a lot about that. I mean, Norman gets bullied a lot. Neil gets bullied a lot. They kind of connect a little bit through their bullying experiences.
Right. So their experience of being bullied.
Yeah. And then, of course, Aggie, the little girl who's the witch, she became that way because of essentially bullies or what the film portrays to be as bullies, sort of.
Mm.
So I guess a judge ordering you to be executed is not really, I guess that's a really extreme version of bullying, I guess. But
That's super bullying.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, like that would
Hyperbully.
happen though. Like that was what I guess laws used to really be based around in like the puritanical times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could, if enough people were bullying you, that was legit.
Yeah.
That's what they said. They were like, 7 people bullied you. It must be legit. Like something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Sorry, Henrietta, you got to burn.
I don't know. But one thing I will say as well, and touching on the same topic, was there are multiple references in the movie made, even about, Norman's dad, when they talk about fear and how they're like, fear can make you say or do things that like you don't mean or something else like that. I do think fear can definitely do that. And I think fear is a part of it. But I think a bigger theme, which obviously the movie didn't really want to touch, it's a kid movie after all, was it's not just fear, it's being different. Like,
Mhm.
I think the fact that, Norman could talk to ghosts and shit like that, and maybe to a certain extent, like his family maybe even believed he could, just like a little bit, because there's the line about, he tells his sister that, his grandma said that she had a picture of some dude in her like drawers drawer. And I guess she was like, I knew you were going through that. He's like, nah, grandma told me. And I feel like no one really comments on that because it's legit. Like they kind of sort of do believe that. And definitely by the end, they do believe totally that he can see, like dead people and talk to them and stuff like that. But I don't know, Nico, anything from you?
They also have the line when they are coming back home, when the family is reunited, where, Norman says, I didn't ask for this, referring to his powers, or I didn't ask to be able to see. And I think it's his dad says, yeah, neither did we. And they just kind of leave that line there, and they don't ever acknowledge it, which is a subtle little hint that perhaps it's hereditary, the ability to see ghosts.
Well, the witch's, if I remember, her last name is the same as the uncle's last name. I
Correct.
believe.
Yep.
You're right. They don't really like go into it, but they do kind of imply that.
Ayo, the word gas mean ghost, right? In some language?
Gas?
That
That means weed
I,
in English.
contrary to popular belief, not an expert in all world languages, so I'm going to leave that back to the boys in the lab.
All right, fair. If someone want to let me know what gas means in Ghost, let me know. So I want also to quickly just kind of touch on the theme of not necessarily like growing up, but when we watched The Babysitter, the main character kind of had to
good-ass movie.
Yeah, real good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Had to grow up and kind of like move past himself being kind of a little chicken shit. And Norman was never quite that scared of things, but he was still like very introverted. He had to like stand up to like a big crowd of people. And he also, when he was helping Aggie out, he had to come to terms with like a lot of the shit that was going on with him as well. Even his dad, he was like not really that close with his dad, but then he, not necessarily forgiveness for his father, but he understood better why his father treats him the way that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was like, yeah, my dad treats me this way because he is kind of scared of like me and what I can do. And, to that extent. So I do think that was a good moment of self-actualization where it's not something wrong with him. The issue's with his father, not with him.
Yeah.
But when he was telling Aggie that there was nothing wrong with her, it was those people that were wrong for doing that to you.
I also think that can be taken as metaphor for mental illness as well.
Totally.
Just the way that, especially his father, but his family in general, treats him, as like you mentioned before, is different, and just how society and everyone treats him. And watching the father say these things, you're like, man, that's a red flag. Why would you ever say that? But I think that's a big connection to mental illness and how people treat that as well.
Very true. Very true. I guess switching on to a slightly more lighthearted-esque note, this movie's chock full of horror references. Like, there's a ton. So I'll let you guys call out maybe what was like your top one or your favorite one. Dan, what was the horror reference in this one that really jumped out at you?
I'm probably going to go with the most obvious one, I think, was Norman's ringtone is the Halloween theme.
Yes, I love that.
And as soon as he answers it, he like looks outside of his window, and Neil is outside with a hockey mask on, like Jason. So it's like it was almost like a twofer kind of right there.
Nico, how about you?
I'll be honest, my favorite wasn't the necessarily most, like, it's one scene, but just kind of how they handled the interaction between the zombies, the public, and our main cast of heroes. Just really going into the scenes where I think particularly towards the latter third of the movie, where those three sort of forces are interacting very regularly, is where some of the dialogue in the movie just absolutely shines the most, because the back and forth in those scenes, the really clever sort of like double meanings that some of the lines have, it's a really fun time.
My favorite piece is when the zombies show up and they're talking about how to kill him. I forget who it is, but they shout out like, kill him in the head with a silver stake.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I guess you could do that, right? Like that would technically cover all your bases. But I don't know if that's entirely necessary. And I guess now I want to go ahead and ask what would you do? But first, we have to come to an agreement, a conclusion, if you will. Who amongst us is going to be the one to see dead people?
It's going to be you, bro.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
wow.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Wow. Don't put that on me, bro. But, all right, fine. You're going to put that on me then. But, so I come through and I'm like, hey, listen, my guys, I can actually see ghosts though. Like, what would your initial reaction be just off the bat? I'm like, yo, I can see ghosts.
I would believe it.
I would believe you.
All right, bet. So next up, then, someone tells us, like, yo, like, y'all got to read from this book to suppress this witch who's been haunting us for like 300 years. I did it for like 50 years. It's y'all's turn now.
Nope.
And then we go, but it doesn't work, and the zombies pop up.
Nope, I don't go.
Oh, you just don't go?
I just don't fucking go.
So you just don't help?
Yep, I mind my goddamn business.
I would normally agree with you, but I don't have a choice. Dan, how about you?
That's fair, bro. Shout outs.
Part of me would say I want to move to a different town.
That's fair. That's a fair answer.
The other part of me would be like, nah, bro, you my guy. I'm sticking with you.
So, Nico, the zombies break into your house for some singular judgment on you.
Yeah, that scans.
What would be the way that you would deal with these zombies? Would you try and talk to them? Would you just immediately start fighting? What would you do?
I would absolutely immediately just start mowing them down. I am not trusting any kind of reanimated corpse. I don't care what the fucking circumstances is surrounding that.
With what? A lawnmower? Katana?
Oh, sure. Yeah. With I'm gonna say spray paint and a lighter.
That's fair. That's fair. That might be effective. And lastly, I want to know, knowing what Norman finds out at the end about the witch, what would you tell the town? What changes, if any, would you try and make?
That would be hard because I think my change would be to change the entire culture of the town because the whole town is like the whole shtick is this whole witches thing, right? Like all the businesses around are like the witchy wieners and like all these different like witch puns and they make their whole identity based on this witch, which I guess is sort of a form of continuous bullying, sort of, I guess. But I would just be like, yo, let's just like not. Let's just be a regular ass town.
I feel like for me personally, I gotta keep the economic foresight of the town in check. You feel me? They probably get a lot of tourism off of that.
That's true.
So
build them a statue of the witch.
Yeah, like I feel like, remember in Stree?
Yeah.
How they like chose to kind of honor the Stree a little bit. I feel like that would be the thing too. Like you got to honor the witch or something like that.
Yo, real talk. Yeah, that would be a great move.
But Nico died already from the zombies, bro, because he ran away. So
unrelated circumstances.
Yeah, unrelated.
Just happens.
But now I want to ask, where do you think this movie ranks on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics? Do you think it's high, low, middle?
I'm going to say high.
I'm going to say pretty high as well.
How high? What do you guys give me a number? Where do you guys think the critics put it?
I'm going to say low 80s.
I'm going to say 87.
Once again, Dan beats you, Nico. You suck. You need to go back and retrain your psychic abilities, bro. This movie got an 89 from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
Audience score is not quite as generous, sitting at a 72%. Now, I want to ask, where do you rate this movie? What's your favorite scene / general thoughts? And we'll leave it at that for right now. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm going to rate this the same as the critics. I really fucked with this. I'm giving it an 89. And my favorite scene is probably just for the animation, the final confrontation with Norman and Aggie, just for the visual aesthetic side of it. In terms of the like more comedic bits, I just, again, really love that last third. It was just money.
Dan, I'm going to call on you next.
I just want to copy paste literally everything Nico said. I'm going to give it an 89. I really like this movie a lot. And my favorite scene was that confrontation there. I was kind of blown away by the visuals. Like I really liked the sort of the stop motion, but I assumed that there was some CG involved with the witch and her and her abilities and stuff. And I thought it looked really good together. And I thought it was really cool. And seeing like the witch's like face like contort in different parts or phase in and out of different places and things, I thought was really cool. And there's one really cool standout scene of that, like when he's walking up to the witch's like grove or whatever you call it. Yeah, abode. Her voice is all like reverby, echoey. And then at one point, like it goes from to her perspective and you kind of see her like speed towards Norman and then get right up by his ear. And then her voice gets like whispers really close to him. And like, I've seen that kind of thing like in horror movies, like live action horror movies, but it was just really cool to see it in this movie too. So I just really like that whole scene there.
That's fair. I think for me, I'm going to give this one, I'm a little more generous than the audience. I'm going to give this one a 75. So I think that this movie is visually, like if this is a visual style you enjoy, then you're going to really, really, really like it. Like it's a very top of the line experience for the whole kind of stop motion thing that it does and it goes for. A lot of the scenes look really nice. I also liked kind of the story. I liked a lot of the themes and messages. However, I can't really say there's any part of this movie that I love. Like, I thought the dialogue was witty.
That's fair.
I thought that, like, you know, everything was fine. It's just like, oh, like, it was an enjoyable watch. So for that, I give it a 75. My favorite scene in the movie is probably towards the beginning, we see Norman and he looks honestly kind of crazy. He's walking down the street, talking to people we can't see, and then the camera rotates and then we can see things from his perspective. And we see all the ghosts that he sees on his way to school. And it's a cool juxtaposition because he's so lively when he talks to the ghosts and moving out of their way. And then when he sees a person, he kind of just like slides past them, doesn't really say too much, puts his head down. And it's a cool kind of like, juxtaposition between the two. So that's where I put it. But now it's time to determine where we put it. Is this going to get a recommendation from both you guys?
Definitely.
For sure.
Gets a recommendation from me as well. Is this going to get the golden seal of approval from you guys?
I would give it.
Not for me, no.
Once again, Dan saves me because no, I would not give it either. But Nico, I can understand. I can put a little bit. This isn't like ghost stories. I can respect you.
Preach.
I should say it's not like Vampire Hunter D, but
yeah, that too.
But any last words before you wrap this one up?
Yeah, did you know that walruses can sleep for up to 18 hours straight?
So can you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But on that note, if you like what you've heard, or if you want to reach out to us, we're on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. Plus, don't forget, you can check out everything we've done on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But till then, take care of one another. Stay safe. Stay warm. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.